So should I buy a fraction in an airplane, or should I just go out and buy a whole airplane? This is kind of the question that I've been asked for quite a few times, and I want to sort of address this in today's episode of Biz Jet Tv. So we're going to talk about, the pros and cons, and when you should actually go to buy an airplane. We're also going to hear a portion of an interview I did with Jason Kandle lately, and he kind of tells his story, and I think you'll find that interesting. So my name is Fabrizio Poli, I'm your aviation advisor, the founder of Biz Jet Tv, and also the author of the book The Quantum Economy. More about the book towards the end of the video, but lots of content in here about private aviation and how having your own airplane really does project you into the quantum economy, where you're going faster than anybody else, and that really is important. So fractional ownership. So we've seen after the pandemic, the fractional ownership companies, mainly NetJets and FlexJet, have gone out and decided to increase their fleets by 30% because they can see that the market is on the up. More and more people have opened up to a private jet ownership. And this is something that's going to continue, even though the environmentalists are trying to shut private aviation down. The grounds on which they're doing this is wrong, but this is not the subject of this video today. But anyway, so let's talk about fractional ownership. Now, with fractional ownership, the larger companies, the FlexJets and the NetJets, you buy a fraction of an airplane. It's usually an eighth or a quarter, depending on the deal that you do. And because the company has a fleet of airplanes, some have 50, some have 100, some have 200, or even 700, or even 1,000 airplanes like NetJets. They have these airplanes floating around all the time. Now, when you buy a fraction, you never get the same airplane for a flight. You never get the same crew. So it's a bit like chartering at the end of the day. You can't put your name on the airplane. You can't stick your logo on the plane. You can't customize the interior with, your own cups and pillows and cushions and all that kind of good stuff. You can't do any of that. And also, you don't have the airplane available right away because, there's a lag time. You ring in to call for the airplane or for an airplane, and, sometimes it takes a day or two before you can get an airplane to fly. So those are the inconveniences of flying with, and buying a fraction and a fraction ownership. But now let's go into a portion of the interview. It's just a short clip I did with Jason Kandle recently. He's the founder of Amelia Bay Company, and let's see what he has to say about private jet ownership. Off we go. I mean, obviously you're using it for leisure, but you're using it for business as well. Have all these planes kind of paid for themselves because you've done deals that you couldn't have done?
Oh, absolutely. Because, the way the IRS looks at airplanes is no different than a forklift or a car or any other piece of equipment used to run the business. So the business at this time was extremely profitable. It was either, basically the goal of every business is to spend the profit because you're going to pay 40% on your profit anyway. So yeah, the airplane was a very small expense of the business at this point in time. So yes, we were using it for business, 100% of the time, going to visit customers. And to me, like I said, it was just way better than flying commercial. And at this point, I mean, I had, from 2007 onward, I never flew commercial again. I couldn't.
So let's just go back a bit to the PC-12. So there you are. You've got this PC-12. You've been flying it around for a few months. Because you had the PC-12, did it just open up other possibilities for business? As in, well, I could go there. Oh, I could go there. Oh, I could land here and go and see so-and-so. Did it make you change the way you thought about where you could
For sure. Because we're in the products in these bottling facilities all over the world, really, at this point, but especially in the Southeast United States. So if a customer would call with an issue, well, I'm there in an hour. I'm not, there's no, hey, I got a flight for 3 days from now. I mean, it was a massive life upgrade and business upgrade to a customer, 1,000 miles away in Dallas or whatever has a problem. And I'm going to come right now and fix this problem. And it was a massive life upgrade. And even to this day, now that, I've sold the company and I'm not even in business anymore. The same logic applies. I mean, what greater resource is there in life than time, and to save that time is just, you can't put a price on it. So absolutely, it is a huge business upgrade, private aviation.
Well, I think Jason explained that very well. You just can't put a price on it. I mean, the ability to spring into action at so short notice, which you don't get with a fractional ownership because, you've got the client with the problem. You need to, jump in a plane in the next hour or two to go and see them and solve the problem. You ring the fractional ownership company up. They're not going to, an airplane's not going to be with you in a few hours, unless you're living in Dallas or New York or London or Dubai, where, you do have a lot of other fractional ownership people. And consequently, there are planes coming in and out all the time. Or alternatively, it could be that you own half an airplane with somebody that lives in the city where you live. That's a fraction of a plane. Okay. And then in that case, you get on well with each other, and it can work. I mean, I've had the first airplane I managed was a fractional ownership. It was owned by two different people, and they got on very well, and they managed their schedules with, and managed to help each other out, and they both used the airplane when they needed it. But it's difficult to get into a partnership like that, and you got to really find the right fit. But with the fractional ownership, you're not going to have an airplane available 24/7. Same if you own an airplane and you charter it out when you're not using it. You'd have the same problem. You want to spring into action now, and the plane's in Tokyo? Well, you can't, because it's on a charter, supposedly making you money. So this is really, really something that you have to understand. When I tell people, when they contact me and they want to buy a plane and that, or lease a plane, I say, now forget the plane, you're buying time. That's what you need to think. You need to think time. So if the airplane's in the hangar and the pilots are on standby, you know that you can go in the air in the next hour or two. It's there, it's available. And now that airplane will take you to your client. You can solve that problem right there and then back in time for dinner with the family. Now, you can't do that with fractional ownership, and you can't certainly do that with if you're chartering your plane out. You need to have your airplane available 24/7. Now, I understand if you look at the spreadsheet, and this is where a lot of people fall, they look at the spreadsheet and they see that private jet ownership is more expensive than fractional ownership, and it's more expensive than chartering or leasing. Now, that is true. That is true. But you can't compare apples to oranges, because at the end of the day, you're getting more. You're getting the ability to really buy yourself more time because you own the airplane. The only time where, it would work, fractional ownership, and I did advise one of my clients a few years ago to go and buy a share in an airplane, is because he was retired and he was only going to use the airplane to fly, to go on holiday with his wife and friends. And in that case, it's not a problem. You ring up the fractional ownership company, said, I need a jet, I want to leave this afternoon. They say, we can't do this afternoon, we could do tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. Okay, fine, we'll leave tomorrow at 2 o'clock. It's not a business situation. And in that case, a fractional ownership can work. Of course, because, when you own half an aeroplane, the other guy is paying for 50% of the fixed costs. What are the fixed costs? The hangar, the insurance, the pilot training, some of the maintenance. That's paid by somebody else. You're not having to pay for that. And then you're only paying for fuel when you're actually flying the airplane yourself. So it does work from an economical standpoint. It does work if you look at the spreadsheet. Same with fractional ownership. If you look at the spreadsheet, it works. But there are hidden problems that they're not telling you about. And at the end of the day, if you can use that airplane, as Jason did, and he built his company up and sold it, thanks to the use of aircraft, he said he would have never been able to have scaled his company the way he did if he hadn't had the use of his own private aircraft. So that's really, really the key. And that's where you need to look at it. The private jet is like innovation. It's not something you can measure from a balance sheet perspective before you start it. It's important to, know what the numbers are. But, if you know that the airplane is going to cost you $10,000 an hour, you're not paying for those 250 hours a year all in one go. You're paying as you go. And as you go, you start doing deals that you wouldn't be able to do if you owned a fraction of an airplane, deals that you wouldn't be able to do if you chartered a plane or if you flew commercial. You can do those deals because you have the airplane available 24/7. And that's where the power lies, because you're buying time, and that flexibility allows you to really move through life at a quantum speed by joining the quantum economy, as I explain in my book, where I tell the story of a number of owners, and including the story of Sam Walton, which not many people know how instrumental private aviation has been in building the Walmart empire, where today they have 30 aircraft that they use every single day to fly their executives all around and fly, potential new vendors in to see them and whatever. And that's how they use the private jet. It's part of the many tools that they have to build their business. And Sam Walton, in his book, in his biography, you can read, he tells a story, and he was a pilot himself. And I think he kind of fell upon this by chance because he was flying as a hobby. And as he was flying and he was looking at the view and looking down, he said, oh, look, there's a good location. That looks like a good location to open a store. And so he discovered through his hobby that, the airplane could actually become a tool for his business. And that's why today Walmart operate one of the largest fleets in the world. And they keep them exclusively for themselves. They don't charter their planes out. And they've used it as part of, one of their business tools to build the business. And that's the way you need to look at it. And the only way to do that is to own the airplane. Don't do this fractional ownership. That's not going to work for you. It's just going to limit you. And you're going to limit you in a way. It's almost like you got a share in an airliner, or you bought a seat on an airliner. You own that seat. But, if the plane's not there, you don't control it. And so control is really, really important. The other control that you have when you own your own aircraft are the crew. You decide on the pilots you hire. You have the same pilots all the time. A flight attendant if the airplane's big enough. That's another aspect which is important. And these people will get to know you. They'll get to know your guests. And then, the service that they give you and your team is even better. And, you know these people. You know what their habits are. You can hire people that you make sure that they don't drink or they don't have any major, private problems or stuff like that. You look after your people. You won't get that with a fractional ownership. Because a fractional ownership, they own 50 aircraft. They have 200 crews that fly those airplanes. Every time you get different pilots, it's just one of those things. And just to let you know, even in a charter company, you'll get certain passengers that will want to fly with certain captains. And they'll call in and they say, I need a plane to go to Paris tomorrow, and can I have Captain so-and-so? And they want Captain so-and-so. But that's difficult for a charter company to do. It's difficult for a fractional ownership company to do because they're managing a large number of airplanes. But when you own your own aircraft, you've got your own crew, you've hired them, they become part of your family, they become part of your team. And that really is another important factor. Also, bear in mind that from a privacy perspective, if you have a small knit group of people that are, managing your airplane, flying your airplane and whatever, it's just a small knit group of people that know where you're going and what you're up to. If you start chartering or fractional ownership, whatever, word gets around, oh, I flew that. Oh, where are you going tomorrow? I'm flying up to there. Oh, you're going to fly that guy. Oh, yeah, I flew him 3 weeks ago. We went to Phoenix in Arizona, and Joe told me he flew him to Germany the other week. And, and the word gets around. And you really don't want that. You want to keep what you're doing private. And that's why it's called private jet. And so these are kind of the advantages of having your own airplane compared to a fractional ownership. So as I said before, fractional ownership works in certain cases. But if you are in a kind of remote area and that, you're not in a main metropolitan area, and you really need it for business more than anything else, that's where, pay the extra money. But, you're paying the extra money straight away. But in the overall scope of things, the airplane will make you more money. And that's the mindset you need to have. How can this plane make me money? By using it yourself, having your team use it, and also having the airplane go out and bring customers to you. That's the way to do it. And you can customize the interior with your name on it and all that kind of thing. And that will, from a branding perspective, give even more value and power to your brand and really allow you to join the quantum economy, as I say in my book. If you want a copy of the book, click on the link below. Give us a thumbs up on this video, comment below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and check out the full interview I did with Jason Kandle. You can hear his whole success story and how he bought different airplanes. And he started off with a small propeller airplane, working his way up to jet ownership and how that has benefited his business. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli here on Biz Jet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.